Hi, welcome. This is a second video in a series of 4 videos looking at some basic harmony techniques. The first video we looked at melody. If you missed out on that one, go back and check the link for that one, which is nearby. This next video is on harmony. Okay, so we've known how to put in a melody. Now we want to pick notes that work with our melody, and this will be a simple way of being able to achieve that sort of process. Okay, so let's move over into it. So over here I've got my melody track. Okay, I've got my notes of the first 2 bars. I'm expecting that you've finished those. Again, if you haven't finished that, pop out, go input the rest of those notes and then pop back again. Okay, so the next step that we need to do is add a new track. Okay, now to do that, we go up to the top to Edit and come down to Instrument. You could also click the I key. And over here, we've got a range of different sorts of instruments. So we've got woodwind instruments here, we've got brass instruments, we've got percussion, we've got various different sorts of instruments that we can add to our arrangement. Now, one thing I need to get you to think about is what would work with the piano. So we've done our melody with the piano sound. So think about sounds and instruments that would work with that. Okay, I'm going to go with the flute. Okay, if you happen to pick a clarinet or saxophone, let's put a clarinet in there as well. Some of these instruments have a key signature, or they're in a different key. Okay, so here we've got our flute added, and I've got my clarinet added, and you can see I've got a couple of sharps here. You might pick another instrument and it's got other sharps or flats sitting there. Don't be too stressed. The way we can adapt this to be able to use these simple harmony techniques is come up here and click concert pitch, and that will reset it to a concert score without it being a transposed score for the various instruments. Okay, so for now I'm going to remove that. I'm going to click the I key this time. That brought that up. Now to remove an instrument from the score, we select it and click remove. Okay, so now I've got my flute and my piano part. So my piano part's got the melody, my flute part's going to have the harmony track. Now we've got to pick what notes will work with this. So we've got to think about our harmony choices here. So let's come over here, and I've got some of our notes from our treble staff here, and I've labelled the letters here to help some of you out. If you need to take a screenshot of this, feel free to. So I've got our low A, low B, middle C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. So I've labelled every line or space. So let's go back and double check what our first note was. So our first note in the melody was a C. So this was that C. Now let's think about that melody note as being our first, our number 1 note. So we want to look at a third above that in our example. So if I go C, D, E would be my third above, and I'm going to put that into my flute part. So let's come over here. I'm going to select the same note type, and I've got my note input, and then if I come down here, I can put that flute part in there. Now my next C, I could repeat that same note. Let's have a listen, see if we can hear the harmony between the piano and flute. Okay, so hopefully you could hear that harmony between those notes, and then it just went back to the piano part. Okay, so we've just done a third above. But what happens if it sounded a third below? So if I went C as being our 1, 2, 3, I'll create a different harmony with this type of third. So let's shift these down. So I'm going to use the arrow key. And so that one's way down there. Let's move this one down as well. Okay, so now I've got some really low notes. Let's have a listen to that. That creates a different sound. Okay, now something else has happened here. These notes have gone red. Now this is telling us that we've gone out of the range of this particular instrument for them to be able to play it. So on the computer we can hear it sound like a flute, but it's out of the range of many standard flutes. Okay, so what I might do is I'll bring that back up to the E up there, or I can click it and drag it up. So I'm going to go a third above our C for this flute part. So let's have one more listen to that. Okay, so we've got our thirds above, which works really well, and a flute player will actually be able to play that. Now next note in my melody, I've got this note on the second line. Let's go look that one up. So let's find it over here. There it is. I've got the G. So a third above G, so again calling that 1, 1, 2, 3, would be a B. Let's go and see what that sounds like. So let's put a B, click note input, into that middle line. Okay, and I've got another repeated sound. Let's give that a go again. So let's see what this sounds like. Okay, that kind of works as well. But what happens if I went a third below? So let's go G is 1, 2, 3. So I've got a third below. I can have that E again. Let's move that down and keep those E's going. Let's see what that sounds like. That kind of works as well. Okay, so let's do a couple more. So next note, melody note is an A. So I've got the A, so a third above. So 1, 2, 3 would be high C. Note input to be able to put it in. Okay, let's have a listen. Okay, now that's created a little bit of a strange sound where I've gone above the melody, below the melody, I'm back above the melody. So this is where you've got to think about within your arrangement, how do you want the flow of notes to work? Do you want parts to cross over each other or not? And how does it sound to you at the end of the day? If you like it, it's generally going to sound okay and it'll be pleasing to others. But if it sounds a little bit strange, what can you do to fix things up? So I've now only got those two notes at this point are below my melody. So let's move that up. So that was our G. Let's move that G up to the B. Up to there. We'll move that one up there. So now they're all above the melody. Let's have a listen to that. That kind of flows a little bit better, doesn't it? So have a think about when you're doing your harmony part, are you going to have it above the melody? Are you going to have it below the melody? Experiment with how it sounds for you, okay? Now, the last note I've got here is, let's have a look at it again, is the G. Okay, so a third above G was 1, 2, 3, the B. Now with this note, we're going to use the same minim down here as well. So I've got that selected, note input, let's put that B in there. And let's have one final listen. Okay, that's kind of working really nicely. Nice peaceful little harmony that's working well. Your job next is to keep going, putting harmony either above or below, and see how things sound for you. Okay, with this one, as you're exploring thirds above or below your melody. So yeah. So hopefully you've been able to learn a little bit about basic skills in harmony in looking at thirds above or below your main melody track. Okay, don't forget to subscribe and definitely ask questions below in the chat if you've got any problems or issues with understanding this. Sometimes you can come into other issues to do with the key that you're playing in. This task is solely only having to use the simple letter names. If you have any other questions, definitely ask me about them. Thanks for listening and stay tuned for part 3.